Who in this room is a genius? And no one put up their hand. Not one, not a district manager, middleman, not one single person. Even the few men that were in the room that were above everybody else even. Not one of them. And they all were looking at each other like,
they probably thought this was a setup, like they raise their hand, they're going to get slammed with something.
I know, right?
The Career Challenges Podcast, a collection of stories about overcoming professional hurdles and learning lessons the hard way. Thank you for joining me. I'm your host, Kyle Werkerly, Certified Ghostwriter. All right, welcome to the Career Challenges Podcast, and my guest for this episode is Nadia Noel-Anglade. She's the Chief Marketing Ambassador at the Networking Embassy. So, Nadia, thank you for being on the Career Challenges Podcast with me.
Thank you for having me, Kyle. Really appreciate this.
Awesome. And we were just talking before I hit record that we've known about each other, but this is our first time actually talking to each other. Partially through LinkedIn, but also you started a new venture recently called the Networking Embassy. And so I'm curious, where did all that come from? Because this sounds like a lot of different motivations and inspirations went into this endeavor you've got now. Well,
big motivational factor is that when you lose your job, you start rethinking things, right? You start looking at, okay, there's a reason why this is happening. So instead of spinning my wheels and going back, repeating, doing the same things over and over, expecting a different outcome, I'm just going to do something new for a change. And so the thought about Networking Embassy came up because my husband and I, we thought about, well, what are some of my strengths? And I'm a master networker. And so I wanted to formulate a company that totally represents who I am as a person, my brand, what I represent and have represented for all these years in business. And the number one thing we thought about was how much I've networked and connected people to do business and open doors for business. And when you think about an embassy, it's multifaceted. Right? You think about, you go to an embassy for passports or to get work visas, visitors visas, all these different forms of transaction. And because I'm such an international person, the term Networking Embassy pretty much encompasses that all entirely. So that's pretty much my motivation behind that and just even naming it.
Wow. Well, that's amazing. Obviously, I knew there's going to be an awesome story behind that, and I wasn't wrong. So what is the Networking Embassy exactly? I mean, when people reach out to you, what can they expect?
Well, so they can expect three things. There's more, but the main things is for me to develop new business for them. So instead of spending your wheels for months or even years to get in the doors and to build communication, like in terms of relationships in your community, I already have a lot of key relationships. So I bypass all that time building and I directly connect you with the people who you want to do business with. In other words, for the business development portion of my business, I pretty much cut down your sales cycle time by directly introducing you to the people who you want to do business with by qualifying them first, right? Wow. On the other side, the other leg of the business, I have speaking engagements. So I love public speaking. I started off doing international public speaking for higher education. I did a lot of that when I used to be an international student advisor for a college in New York. And I did that for a number of years and I loved it, but I never really followed through as a career. And I was always highly successful at recruiting foreign students to the US as a result of those public speaking engagements. So all I'm doing is evolving that now. Mm-hmm. And then lastly, training sales and marketing teams, because I've been hired to run really large sales programs for global companies. And so especially if they're failing, so I'm the person who goes in, evaluates, assess, and totally turns around the program so that it's now flourishing. And that was so much fun for me. So I love being able to train on certain aspects of sales, how to network effectively, how to communicate effectively so that businesses can be even more profitable. So those are like the main three legs of my business.
Wow. Well, I have a lot of questions just based on that answer alone. So I'm going to start with one here. When you talk about business development, is that business development in a certain niche, a certain industry, or is it really anywhere?
So I just did a post about saying never say never.
True. Yeah.
and, and originally I said, you know what? I've worked several industries before. So I'm focusing on construction,
Mhm.
higher education, call center, and BPO, which really is a combination, and staffing. But today I met with someone who's in wealth management, and I said, you know what? I do not want to do financial services. But he saw my launch video, and he's like, you know what? I was really impressed by it, and it really made me think about my business. And I knew him from a networking event. I sat right next to him on a table at lunch, and I couldn't help it. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna give this a chance. So I'm gonna be doing a proposal for him, even though he's in financial services. And I said I don't want to do that. I'm gonna do it anyway because I was able to help him to just even change his mindset about networking and certain areas that he hasn't even touched yet. So really, it's for anyone who has a need to develop new business, to identify, because my networking is focused, it's intentional, and it's practical. It's not just to socialize. I don't network just to socialize. And I think a lot of people mix up the difference between socializing and being strategic all at the same time. So that's pretty much what I'll be doing.
Awesome. Awesome. And so you had mentioned doing sales as well. Kind of what is your approach to sales? I mean, are you from a specific, I guess, camp? I know there's John Maxwell and Dale Carnegie and all these other ones. What is your approach to sales? I'm always curious.
My approach is the Nadia Noel-Anglade approach.
Are you going to trademark that now? Are you going to
I'm
trademark?
gonna have to. So
Okay.
I am your ultimate people nerd. It's on the tagline of my profile on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
And really, so a lot of people don't know this about me, but I actually went formally to charm school. I
Really?
did in New York. Yes, I
In New
did that
York.
for
Okay.
about 6 months.
Well, they don't have that here in San Antonio, from what I understand. So
I'm so
I
sorry.
can't go to a charm school myself. So I'm going to be without charm. I apologize. But you were saying.
So in a charm school, believe it or not, they teach you how to sit, stand, open a door, get out of a car. It teaches you fencing to help you with poise and posture, and it teaches you how to go to social events. And you know, when you go to those formal events and they have all these utensils and all these different glasses and stuff, they teach you all of that. It's like finishing school, really.
Hmm.
And so I could move into any type of situation, you know, whether it be upscale or regular casual, I can float into that like this, right?
Hmm.
But to be quite honest, I really just use who I am as a person. I love people. I'm passionate about people. And I think people know that from the time that they meet me, it's just a connection there. And there have been very few people who I just kind of rub me the wrong way.
Hmm.
Very few people. And normally when that happens, I pay attention. You
Wow.
know, but other than that, I really just use my personality, and the fact that I'm just curious about finding out about other people and who they are.
All right. So then I guess that's where the nerd came from, for people nerd, right?
Yes, yes.
Awesome. Awesome. So I'm curious too, and because I love books, I'm always reading books as a ghostwriter. Have you read Captivate by Vanessa Van Edwards? Have
I
you read that
have
one?
not as yet.
Okay. I was just curious what your take would be on that, because, talk books. That would be a great excuse to talk books. So, and then, it's still sticking on that book question. If someone were to ask you, how do I get better at sales? Would there be any books or courses that you would recommend to them?
Yes, The Go Giver.
Go Giver. Who wrote that one?
Yeah, so The Go Giver is a little red book, very easy read. And when someone recommended it to me, I thought, like, this person doesn't know me. I give all the time. The Go Giver, I'm telling you, I went to Europe and I told my sister who was with me at the time, I have to finish this book before returning to the US. And I'm so glad I did. Because there's one law that it talks about, the law of receiving, receptivity. And so I'm very good at giving. And there are 5 laws in the books that it talks about. But the last one, I'm horrible at receiving stuff. And what it taught me is that, you know what, I've been taking away other people's blessing. When they're trying to give something to me, or I'm apprehensive to that, or I don't know how to receive that, I'm not allowing them to receive the same feelings that I get when it's an amazing concept, but it's so true. So I've been working on being okay with if somebody is offering me something to help my business, whatever it is the case, allow them, because they are trying to do the same thing I've been doing for people all these years, and I deplete myself a lot by giving, but I'm supposed to be filling myself up by receiving, and I was missing that component. It's a great book to help you to be not just internally focused on self-development, but everybody around you. It talks about elite customer service and just looking at people in such a phenomenal way that you've just never heard of before. So it's a great book.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. It sounds amazing. I'm putting that on my list right now.
Yes.
And you had mentioned receiving. That wasn't really your skill set. I'm just curious, is there a mindset behind that?
Yeah, so I've always wanted to give, because growing up, I didn't really have a lot growing up. And I saw my mom especially always, like, I guess, having to take from people and have to pay them back. Mm-hmm. And I didn't like that feeling. So I grew up with the mindset, I'm just gonna give rather than take, because we weren't always in a place where we had everything, and I never liked owing people. So I felt like, you know what, if I take stuff from people, right, it means that I have a debt that I'm owing them. And so that's where the mindset kind of came from, to be quite honest. And I love to see people encouraged and happy and everything, but not realizing, like, it's okay at different points in your life, you're going to need help. It's okay to need help. It's okay to be weak for a change. You can't always be strong. You can't always have everything together. And I think too many people, we so want to look perfect, or we have it all going on, that we don't realize there are people and places and things that can help you get through that if you cut away the pride, And so that's, for me, part of it is part of my pride, because I don't want to seem like I'm taking from people and now I owe them something.
Yeah. I agree. Reminds me of, have you seen the musical Waitress? Like the Broadway musical, not the movie. Because it was based on the movie Waitress, and then they made it.
I just saw Shrek the musical last night.
I'm sure that's great too. There you go. No, but there was a great song in there, and it made me cry, and I told my wife, we have to get the soundtrack because of this one song, but it was Take It From an Old Man. And, it's a song about an old guy telling this young woman, take it from me. You're going to get there, and like all this great stuff. And it's like, to me, I'm like, I want to be that guy. I want to be the old man. He's like, take it from me. Here's what you need. And like, so like, that's one of my goals now, is like, I want to get there. I want to be the old man who's giving, right? Not just of his time, but also of his self, like his experience. So,
exactly.
Yeah. So I'm all for that. And they're receiving as well. So let me circle back around to the networking embassy that you brought up. What was the process to get that together and up and running?
So I'll tell you, when you have a husband in digital marketing, it makes life very easy.
True. I've learned, if I was better at marketing, a lot of things would be easier.
Yes. And so what he's done, even with my business launch video on LinkedIn, he did all the bells and whistles for me. I just did the video, but he created the blurbs and the entry point, to the video, the closing, and he created all of that for me. And he told me exactly what it is. I just left him to do what he did best. And I didn't realize he can do so much. Wow. The things that we take for granted. Sure. But as a result, putting it all together, I just really thought about what my strengths were. And a lot of times people, it's not that they don't want to step out on a limb or to do their own business. I think for me, I had to look back at where did all my successes come from? Yes, I worked in multiple industries, but what are the common themes in each industry I worked? That was sales, business development, operations, and I also did leadership development, but public speaking. So I really, all I did was to comprise all the things I've ever done throughout my entire professional life and put it into the bubble where in the networking embassy, these are my strengths. That's what I'm going to focus on. That's what's allowed me to be successful for all these years and make so much money for companies. And that's what I'm going to now do for me. So it really wasn't that hard.
Oh, wasn't that hard? Yeah, well, this is the Career Challenges podcast. This is not the Career That Wasn't That Hard podcast. So what was the challenge that you encountered getting this up and going?
So I will tell you that the challenge for me is the pricing.
Oh, yeah, true.
So I'm really good. I'm really, really, really good at promoting other people and getting them business. But asking for business for myself, that is the tough part for me, right? I've had several conversations in the last 2 weeks, and I haven't even been in business that long, where people's like, Nadia, you can't just give away your stuff because everybody else is making money, but you need your own clients now. And I'm like, I know, but I just love connecting people. So turning the natural connectability to now something that I can monetize, that's the challenge for me. And I actually did a much better job in the last few days, believe it or not.
Good.
You know, but it's a constant struggle for me because it's a culture thing. I feel like I just want to help people. If you have a need and I know somebody in my network that can help you, I just want to help that person. So for me, money has never been at the forefront, even though I am money motivated for valid reasons. We need to all live. Sure. It's never really been the number one driver for my life. You know, values mean more to me than anything else. But that's been my challenge, like charging people, because even now I have my own business. I just say, oh my God, he's so sweet, or she's so wonderful, I just want to help. And I'm like, just stop it already. Sure. You know, yes, they could still be sweet and nice, but you have viable information that they need, and you need to be able to value your time, value your qualities, and it's okay. It's okay to charge.
Yeah, that was something I had to deal with as well. And I feel bad admitting this, but there's just times where people are like, well, I've got a great story. I just need your help. Can you do it for free? I'm like, as great as that story is and as much impact as that's going to be, I can't work for free. I just can't. Exactly. I'm sorry. And I know it makes me sound like a jerk, but at the same time, it's like, well, I've got to pay bills too. No,
it's true. And especially when you have kiddos, and I've been finding out recently, Kyle, that I've connected people to each other earlier this year, and they've been profiting from it. And I'm now finding out.
Wow.
And this is just all in me, just in passing. Hey, I think this person will be great for you. Hey, I just want to introduce you to such and such. And they've been doing business together. And so it's not that I can't do it. I've even gotten clients from my husband. Okay. But it's just, I need to be able to it's okay to make money. And I think I associated making money with ingratitude, because I've seen also people who make a lot of money and they forgot where they came from. And I just never wanted to be that person. So part of it is also like reprogramming my mindset, saying, hey, I am not like everybody else. I can make money and I can help people even more, as opposed to feeling bad for taking money from people.
Awesome. Great point. Okay, so you mentioned biz dev, sales. There was one I forgot to circle back to and ask questions of, and that was speaking engagements. So how did you get started speaking, and then how did you get, I guess, other people speaking engagements? I guess would be a great question there too.
All right. So as I said, I was recruited originally as an international student from Trinidad to New York for Monroe College. And I worked for the college in different departments over time. And then one day, the vice president of the college, as well as the director of international programs, asked me to make a call to Trinidad. And I made a call, and I invited a ton of people to this public speaking session they were having. And they came back and they shook my hand very vigorously, I remember. And they said, I don't know what you did, but we've never had a split session in Trinidad ever. Over 300 people showed up. And you're talking about well over 10 years ago. And the director wanted me to come work for him immediately. And I denied him several times until he had to sit me down and say, listen, this is what is going to happen if you start learning international business. This is what your future can look like. And what he did, he exposed me to foreign governments. So I had to liaise with foreign prime ministers. I had to liaise with, foreign vendors, foreign media, immigration officials, college officials. He directly exposed me to that by being on a plane 50% of the year, recruiting foreign students to the United States. that's when the public speaking began, because I was consistently, if I went on an island, whether it be Trinidad, St. Lucia, wherever, I would go to every single high school just about on the island speaking to all these students just to recruit them. And then I'll have a mass information session. It could be 250, 500 people, you name it, that I'm speaking to parents and students or their sponsors about the college. So I did that consistently, back to back, multiple countries. And even when I got into management, new hire orientation, you name it, I've always just been a speaker. But I never thought about evolving it into where I can go into speaking engagements until I got asked to speak at a TEDx workshop. And
Really?
I said yes to something that I had no clue what I was saying yes to.
Well, I tried getting into the TEDx here one year, and I got rejected. I'm like, I better work on my material before I try that again. But
actually, so TEDx and TEDx workshops are very different.
Oh, okay.
And so someone who I met through, again, an association we were a part of, she couldn't do it. So she referred me. And that morning, I looked up in the sky and said, God, it would be so nice for me to get a speaking. I'm serious. I went to my son's room. Wow. And I said, it would be so great to get a wonderful speaking engagement. By nightfall, that request was in my email. And I said, yes, so excited because of what I had asked for earlier. I manifested that, right? Clearly, subconscious. But then the next morning, I saw the person's email and it says TEDx. And I was like, oh my God. And I started freaking out because I was like, this is unbelievable. And I went up to speak to a bunch of middle managers and district managers of a large national corporation, in Austin. And they loved it. They absolutely loved it. They said they wish they had met me a few months prior.
Wow.
So they kept my number and everything. And now the person who was my contact in Austin, he now wants to put me onto his international campus in Brazil. So there's a lot of great things that come out of sometimes just asking for things, right? Because that was I don't know if that was a fluke or that was just my time, but it was phenomenal.
Awesome. So do you have speaking engagements throughout the year that you regularly go to, or are you still trying to work up your calendar?
I am in the process of working my calendar, but already I was asked to be an MC, of a women's conference happening here in October. I actually just posted it briefly, and it's going to be an amazing event because I think a lot of women, this is the year of women empowerment. Mm-hmm. And I can't tell you how many women are starting to now pull together as opposed to being competitive or being catty. They're actually starting to support each other. And so Daniel Gomez, his wife Mari, they're putting on this women's conference here at the Norris Center, and I believe that's October 5th. Yeah. So I will be an MC for that, and I'll be speaking there as well to empower these women that's coming in from all over.
Awesome. And then Daniel Gomez was actually one of my previous guests here, so we got to talk about that. So.
Yes, that's wonderful.
Yeah. So how did you meet Daniel Gomez?
We are in the executive book review together.
Oh, okay. I got to start going to that. I need to make room in my schedule.
A lot of business leaders are in that book review because you're talking about people who are business owners, who are leaders in their community. We come together about 3-4 times a month and we discuss different books together. And you don't even have to read the book because the facilitator is going to break down the book for you. All you do is to engage and interact with the person presenting the book, and so that you can share and see other lifelong learners helping and encouraging each other and supporting each other.
Awesome. Well, I'm putting that on my calendar. It's not going to go on my reading. It's going to go on my calendar. So I make that happen. Would you like to be a guest on the Career Challenges podcast? Visit careerchallengespodcast.com to find out how. And while you're there, listen to all available episodes and subscribe through Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and CastBox. More outlets are coming soon. The Career Challenges podcast is produced by me, Kyle Weckerly, and I'm a certified ghostwriter. A little bit more about that. I work almost exclusively with business authors. I've worked with authors who are coaches, consultants, mentors, speakers, some high-ticket salespeople, C-level executives, and of course, business owners. My authors have worked for USAA, Vistage, Booz Allen Hamilton, Austin Technology Council, and the John Maxwell team. They want to write a book, and they want that book to help them expand their business. See, with a book in hand, they're able to market their expertise, or secure more speaking gigs, or promote their company, or all three, or maybe even more than that. They're not out to write a bestseller, though that would be nice. Instead, they have years of knowledge and experience, and sorting it out will be no easy task. More importantly, they want all that knowledge and experience to be an engaging read. To learn more about how you can become an author, visit weckerlywriter.com. That's WECKERLYWRITER.com, and schedule a consultation today. And now, back to the Career Challenges podcast. So Nadia, somebody sees you speaking on stage and they're really impressed with you and they're inspired and they're like, I want to do exactly what Nadia Noel-Anglade is doing. What would you suggest they do? What would be the steps to do that, to get to where you are now?
Well, I would definitely ask them in terms of what's their motivation for wanting to speak, because there has to be something. Like for me, I just want to share my story. And I didn't realize what my story was until recently. And really, it's a collection of every single aspect of, skills, experiences, things that you can really share and teach others. And, it's a collection of all those things. Because a lot of speaking has to do with storytelling. And as you know, storytellers are magnificent, right? They know how to engage you, because not everybody can be a speaker. I'm just letting you know, okay?
Sure.
Not everybody knows how to capture an audience within the first few minutes of speaking. Not everybody knows how to move an audience, make them laugh, make them react to different ways. You have to really have that passion. So I would ask them that, what is their motivation too? There are several organizations that's geared towards helping you with public speaking. You have Toastmasters. You actually can meet people in Toastmasters they have a network of people who's always looking for speakers that you could actually, go and network in order to get speaking engagements. Again, TEDx workshop, you can look that up. I did not know that TEDx speakers in general, they do not get paid. However, their payment comes from whoever is in the audience,
yes,
right? Who motivates them and speak to them, But I would say not necessarily like perfect their craft, but I would say, one, if you really want to start speaking, use different forums to do it. Like for me, I am now a faculty member of the Executive Book Review. So in October, I will be presenting my first book to that audience. But not just in San Antonio. I'll be going to Corpus Christi. I'll be going to Houston. Also, I'm a part of an organization called NEPRIS. And NEPRIS allows you to lecture, and not necessarily lecture, but to speak to students virtually in classrooms all over the United States to share your industry experience as a professional. It's a volunteer-based organization. However, if I'm in construction and the students want to learn about the trade industry, how much it pays, things like that, I can virtually speak to them. They ask a lot of questions. I engage with them. And what that does, it gives you practice. It gives you a lot of practice. And also start connecting with people who are speakers. Mm-hmm. Connect with people, because remember, you want to be, right, a top tier speaker. You want to start taking that bold move and connect with people who's already doing what you want to do. Mm-hmm. So those are the steps that I would share with them, if they want to be a public speaker.
Awesome. And is there maybe another avenue you might have missed out, like maybe a podcast?
So podcast, so I'm now, so this is my fifth. So
obvious plug here for podcasting.
I know, but actually, so you had a great post the other day where it talked about, on LinkedIn, you talked about the importance of being on a podcast.
Yes.
So like exactly what you're doing, you're interviewing me, you're asking those questions. It's another forum where you can put yourself out there, and you can also highlight your business. You can, you can answer a ton of questions, and people get to understand who you are as an individual, right? What you do will come after, but if people really take to who you are, then the business is going to come after. But podcast, I am on a mission for the rest of the year to have at least be a part of one podcast per month for the rest of the year.
Awesome.
In fact, I have a printed list. I joined something, didn't know what it was, and it's a printed list of a ton of podcasts that I'm going to be emailing just so I can be a guest on. So I can keep on, practicing over and over.
Awesome. Yeah. And it's great interviewing skills as well. And not only for the guest, but also for maybe the host, i.e. me, working on my interviewing skills. Awesome. So another question, Nadia, somebody's inspired by your story, and yet they kind of think, well, it's probably easier for her. She's got that X factor. She's very personable. She's engaging. It must be so easy for her to, go from, wherever you were before now to on the stage talking and connecting with people. Has it been easy for you?
I wouldn't say it's always been easy. No, not in the least. I grew up with the most amount of insecurities ever in my life. In fact, before coming to this country, when I walked on the street, I would walk with my head down. When I got to the US, I learned to walk with my head up. That's how insecure I was. And, as a young girl. And so doing this hasn't always been easy. I didn't have a voice, and I didn't know my voice. I didn't know I had one until I came to the States. And several people, mentors, managers, I had some really good role models in my life that just saw something in me and helped me along the way. They helped me build my confidence. That manager who wanted me to go overseas, and he was the one who taught me, how to do public speaking. Come to find out, by the way, he hated public speaking, and he kept on pushing me to do it because you're great at it, we're great at it. And I'm like, wait a minute. So we had a conversation. Come to find out, he was always like sweaty and stuff, but he never showed signs of it until we had a conversation. And he said, this is your thing. And so it wasn't always easy for me. But guess what? I found who I really was on the inside. When you understand what your power is, and when you understand how you can move people and why it is you do the things that you do, then that confidence, as much as it's nerve-wracking, you push through that because you understand where your genius. And my genius, I'm a social genius. It's a fact that we can have the same personalities, but our geniuses are different. Sure. And I'm called a blaze genius. That means I can walk into a room and there's a whole bunch of strangers, but by the time I walk out, I know just about almost everybody, in that room because of who I am. Yeah. So it wasn't always easy. Trust me, this came with time.
Sure. So looking back now, can you kind of point to a moment where you were like, aha, I'm actually good at this? I'm not great. It's not like this innate talent to where I'm just great to begin with, but what was that moment where you're like, I really should look into this because I feel I've got some talent here. And if I develop that, then, I could top even Les Brown and Tony Robbins and all those other big names.
Okay, so the proof is in the pudding. So when I spoke internationally, so this college could not recruit more than 9 students from my country. Really? When I left them, I recruited 28 students for that. And that's just from one country. Okay? Understand that was a huge deal. So think about it. Higher education is about educational services. Yeah. I wasn't providing a product. I was providing the dream, the hope that if you get a solid education, this is what you can be in the future. That's what I was selling, right? And when I became an insurance agent later on, my manager, he said, because I didn't want to work commission in insurance. I never worked 100% commission. And he said, wait a minute. So you can go convince people from other countries to pack up all that they know, move to the US for education, but you can't be an insurance agent? And I said, well, when you put it like that, and guess what? I ended up being successful even in that too. Wow. So it's just, my aha moment was knowing that I was able to more than triple what the college was able to do for a long time because of who I was.
Wow. And the 9 students you were saying a year, that wasn't based on any restriction. It just, that was really all they could bring in?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But it also happened in other countries, and they found that. So I was their marketing tool only because the reason being people were connecting with me more because I was an international student. I went through the process. I know what it's like to, having to apply to college and then having to go through the immigration process and that visa process. I know from start to finish what that was like. And here I'm standing before them saying, hey, you can do this too. So I think that's why people started, thinking about this more and reacting to this more, because I was not just an American person trying to sell them a dream. I was someone who actually went through the entire process from A to Z, and now I can show them this is what happened as a result of me doing that.
Wow. So from A to Z, how long did that take?
So for me, it took a little bit while because I did not want to go to college.
Yeah, I understand that.
Initially, but it can take, if the student is applying for the fall, it normally takes like a few months for them to get the paperwork and everything, but they will have to start sometimes as early as January to get in for September or October period. It sometimes takes, you can take sometimes a year or more to get a student, at your college. It all depends on the parents' financial situation as well, because a lot of times people don't really understand that international students generate billions of dollars to the U.S. economy. They're coming in with liquid money, which, yes, they don't have financial aid. They don't have if they have to take out a loan, it's a personal loan, which is much higher in terms of the rates. So it's pure cash, pure money that colleges, get from international students. So it's a very important population to recruit.
Wow. I never would have known that.
Yes.
It's one of many things I've learned in this interview thus far. So, all right. So when you look to do a speaking engagement, is there kind of a general topic or theme that you always go for, or are you really trying to figure out what they want before you come up with a speech?
So they would know me, like the TEDx workshop, they pretty much told me who these people were. It was a bunch of women managers. They rolled out a new leadership program for women to empower them on at their company. And they basically told me like what they wanted. I went in and I printed out all these different points that I wanted to say. And how can I tell you? I got there in front of the group. It was about 40 or 50 people in the room. And I just looked at their faces and I just put everything that I printed out aside. And I just started speaking from the heart. I just started speaking because it was only women. And I was thinking they're trying to hear my story as how I overcame certain things, certain struggles and obstacles as a woman. So forget all my note taking. I'm just going to share some of the struggles I overcame and how I got to this point in my life. And I think that resonated more than having something that I wrote down or printed out.
Well, I'm sure every speaking engagement hasn't been exactly like that, though.
No, well, actually, I'm really good at impromptu.
Wow.
So I'm teaching my kids that right now. They're very young. However, on Saturdays, I was like, okay, talk about a banana. Tell me everything you know about a banana. I'm teaching that from now, right? Because I didn't get that as a child. And so I'm serious. I have won competitions because of thinking on my feet. So you put me up in front of any crowd and there are certain topics, especially leadership, anything. Mm-hmm. I can literally speak on that topic because I'm highly relatable, Awesome. So you got to also know what your strength is. And one of them is quick thinking on your feet.
Awesome. Yeah, because actually, ironically, right now I'm reading Robin by David Iskoff, the biography on Robin Williams. That was written, and he would do that too. From what I'm learning in this book is that, his sets, he didn't memorize jokes or anything. He would just be given topics and he would riff on those topics and then do different voices and characterizations and all that. And of course they start out with his childhood, and he was, a lonely child, and so he was making up these characters in his head, and that's where that came from. That was kind of that spark. And so my question to you now is, how do you get that impromptu, that quick thinking skill set? Because obviously you're very quick to answer things, whereas me, you can hear me kind of go blah, 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 in the middle of this interview, this professional sounding interview. So where does that skill come from, and can you quantify that?
So personally, I don't think for me you can. I think what you have to have a genuine interest in people, first of all. Yeah. When you've spoken to as many people I have, both on the domestic and international front, over time, you become so unique in terms of your thought process, in terms of your sensitivity, your exposure to so much diversity. I have never been to certain countries, but if you are from one of those countries I've never been to, I guarantee I can talk about at least one thing, because I love culture and because I'm always studying out people who are different. Mm-hmm. You see, the only way you're going to get those critical thinking skills is through diversity. Mm-hmm. And when you don't allow other people into your bubble, into your space, you're missing out on those riches, right? Part of my riches is learning from so many people from all over the world. Mm-hmm. I read up on a lot of things. I love travel. In fact, at one point in time, I wanted to study cultural anthropology. It was so bad. But you learn critical thinking skills, especially when you get into management. And when you have anywhere from 80 to 175 people to manage, you better think on your feet really quickly. Sure. Because you're trying to grow a program. You're trying to keep the client happy. You're trying to keep them satisfied and coming back. So you have to understand and identify certain things about individuals in the early onset of meeting them. Have you ever heard about the horn and halo theory?
The horn and halo theory.
Uh-huh.
No, maybe I have, but I'll say no.
So this is a real thing. I'm going to talk about this on for one of my posts, but in psychotherapy, there's something called the halo horn therapy or horn halo therapy. And what that does, it's a method where within the first 7 seconds of meeting someone, you form an impression. Mm-hmm. It's either you have horns on your head or a halo on your head.
Oh, cool.
And so have you ever met someone and there's something about them, it just didn't rub you the right way?
Oh yes.
Exactly. So a lot of what I do and how I'm able to assess things and people is by simply through observation, quick observations about body language, how you react, how they're communicating with you, what they're not saying to you that people take for granted. And that's how I'm able to formulate, okay, well, this is where the conversation is going to lead to as a result of those things.
Awesome. So with your speaking engagements, was there one that kind of stands out to you as, like, I guess your favorite?
I would say the very last one, especially that I did with the TEDx workshop, was my favorite because I asked one question in the room. I knew what the answer was going to be, but I just wanted to try it. I asked, okay, who in this room is a genius? And no one put up their hand. Not one, not a district manager, middleman, not one single person. Even the few men that were in the room that were above everybody else even, not one of them. And they all were looking at each other like,
they probably thought this was a setup, like they raise their hand, they're going to get slammed with something.
I know, right? But then I asked the question, okay, so what is a genius? And somebody said, who knows how to do certain things in a great way. And I said, so none of you know to do that? And so they said, well, because a lot of times people think a genius is someone with a high IQ.
Oh, okay.
And it's not. You're a genius. I'm a genius. Everybody have a different genius about them. Some people are a genius at details. Some people are a genius at creativity. Some people are a genius, yes, intellectually. But, but we're all geniuses just in a different way. And I'm a people genius, right? And so, but I had to discover that about myself because oftentimes we tend to focus on the IQ. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of smart people out there who don't know how to connect with people. There's a lot. We see them all the time. They're the brains behind the business, but if you put them in front of people, you would never be in business.
No, true.
So, but yeah.
Awesome. So then on the flip side of that, what was your least favorite speaking engagement where, it just can't get any worse than this one?
Oh gosh. So I had to speak in front of an internal sales team for a company I worked for. And it was the worst presentation I've ever done in my life. This wasn't construction. It was an internal speech. So it wasn't in front of a client or anything, but it was in front of the sales team. And you're sitting in a room with a bunch of highly technically trained people in commercial roofing. And I remember thinking to myself, what the heck is going on with me? That's not me. Like, why is this? So it was like the worst ordeal I didn't get any feedback. I had to redo the presentation a couple weeks after. And it was just the worst experience of my life. And looking back on it, I'm like, you know what? Maybe because I was just in the wrong environment, because guess what? After that, I did the TEDx workshop, score, but sometimes when you're dealing with a bunch of technical people, not everybody likes when you're happy-go-lucky. Not everybody likes that wonderful, bubbly, super sunshiny personality. And I realized, a lot of technical people, they're not into the whole, you being happy-go-lucky. They just want the details and that's it. And I think that's really why that happened.
Yeah, I'll admit there are times when I'm like that too, where we show up for a gig or I'm supposed to learn something from this event, and the guy's jumping around on stage like, "Hey, this is great! I want you to stand and cheer," and they try to get pump up the crowd like a cheerleader. I'm like, just take that attitude, put it over there, and let's focus on what I need to learn from this. Just give me A, B, and C, and we're good.
Yeah, especially if you're speaking in front of a bunch of analytical people. Yeah, that's hard. Yeah. Because they're all about the technical. They don't want any fluff or anything. And it's just this personality types. But it was the first time I was put into that situation because every time I've ever spoken in front of any crowd, small or big, I've always had very positive feedback. I've always really inspired people, empowered them. But this was just I don't know what it was, man. It was just, it was bad.
Yeah. Well, you can't win them all. You can't.
I know.
Them all. So, all right. Well, Nadia, what is next for you and the Networking Embassy?
Well, I am securing more clients because of my launch. I am now responsible for writing a few proposals this week. I was just asked to consider being a vendor and an agent for a large institution here. Wow. Yes, this all happened today. And I already gained my first client, who is not even from the U.S.
Awesome.
So what's next for me is that this girl is taking the Networking Embassy on the road. My vision is to make sure that it becomes an international business. It's something I've always wanted to do. And I just want to be able to inspire those who feel that they can't do this or they don't know how. I really want to be that inspirational source to many people who either lost their jobs or just don't know where to turn, because every one of us have strengths. We underutilize it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you have your speaking engagement with Daniel Gomez, right?
Yes.
And when was that again?
So that's October 5th.
October 5th. All right. And what was the name? It was Empowering Women?
Yes. It's gonna be on LinkedIn, because actually I received a lot of great reactions for me just even posting that. I think it's something that we take for granted, as I said, for women, but I'm gonna tag you in it so you can see what it's gonna be like.
Awesome. And then if people are listening to this podcast and are like, okay, I've got to call Nadia, I've got to get in touch with her somehow, how do they do that?
They would contact me at nadia@thenetworkingembassy.com or 512-222-8262.
And you have a website too as well?
Actually, no. But yes, I'm telling you, I'm doing everything backwards here. I'm not even gonna lie to you. So what I've done, I have the relationships and all the bells and whistles is coming one after the other. I mean, think about it. Amazon, think of all these big time guys who started their business. Do you think they had all these bells and whistles up front? They did. They started in a garage or something. But I really want my business to be word of mouth primarily. Mm-hmm. That's really the direction that I'm trying to take with it. But I am going to have a simple website coming up that people will be able to tap into some of my stories, and they'll be able to link some of the postings I do on LinkedIn with the website and everything to see a little bit more about my services.
Awesome. Well, Nadia Noel-Anglade, this has been a great experience for me, and I'm sure it's been a great experience for those listening. Thank you so much for being on the Career Challenges podcast with me today.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so very much for having me. I really appreciate you.
Thank you for listening to the Career Challenges podcast. Visit careerchallengespodcast.com to listen to more episodes and subscribe. And don't forget to schedule a consultation to talk about your book today by visiting weckerlywriter.com. That's WECKERLYWRITER.com.